Hello, everybody, and welcome to OpenExO Live. Really good to be with you at this evening or afternoon or morning, wherever you are in the world. And today we have Diana Bernal, who is currently in Argentina, and we'll get a bit more into that. But as you can see on the screen there, some amazing people lined up for the coming weeks. And before we get Diana onto the stage, I do have a few words from some of our community members about Diana. So we will start with this one from Oscar, and he just said, Diana inspires the teams where she leads and collaborates with passion. Her purpose is to empower by educating children to transform the world for a better future. A person who transforms the limitations of the past into opportunities of the future. It only takes a few minutes to understand the domino effect that her attitudes and values produce. We then have from Graciela, Diana is an extraordinary person with whom you can work collaboratively. I was fortunate enough to work on a project with her, and I was impressed by her mindset, her way of reasoning, and her problem-solving abilities. She is what our future creative leaders need to look like. Then we have from Lars, Diana is the living proof that people who happen to be young can live their dreams, be fully empowered to solve real-world problems they are passionate about, and to do it across borders and cultures, making huge positive impact. Thank you, Diana, from the Planet Pilots around the world. We then have Crystal. I was so lucky to meet and later team up with Diana in our Planet Pilot startup project to empower kids. Diana is just so special, the one who is so passionate about kids. She will spend nights and days to bring the most exciting and empowering activities for kids. Although we met and have been collaborating virtually since last year, the bond is just so strong. For me, it is for a lifetime relationship. This is the amazing power of the OpenExO and Educate for Life communities. And then lastly, we have from Karina. Diana is an amazing young woman. I have had the opportunity to work with her many times, always smart and adding the right information to the meetings. Then I discovered we were living in the same city, and we met personally. This made a real change in our connection, not only improving our relationship, but also allowing the opportunity to get closer and become really good friends. I miss you, Diana. It is really a pleasure to work with her. I strongly recommend to everybody to meet Diana. So those are just some of the words from our community. So Diana, welcome to OpenExO Live. How are you doing this afternoon for you?
Thank you, Kevin. Wow, who's this lady? I would love to meet her. Yeah, I'm joking. Wow. Thank you very much, Oscar, Graciela, Lars, Kari. It's really been a pleasure, and really I would like to thank OpenExO as well, because it's really been the ecosystem that's opened so many doors to me to meet amazing people, to really work in projects of impact, and really the pleasure is mine. This community is full of amazing individuals, and I feel very privileged to be a part of it and add my 2 cents whenever possible.
Awesome, thanks, Diana. So, if we always start by asking folks just to give a bit of a background about yourself, tell the folks who are watching a little bit about yourself, and like sort of up to and including joining the OpenExO community.
I will. I'm still assimilating all these nice thoughts. Thank you again very much to everyone. My name is Diana in Spanish. I'm originally from Colombia, Bogota, Colombia. I moved to Miami for my high school. After graduation, I later on moved to China. I spent almost 8 years in China, almost up to the pandemic. Then my parents wanted me to run for my life. And the funny part is that now China is the safest place in the world right now. We didn't really expect this to become a pandemic. But actually, OpenExO came at the really interesting point in my life. It was about 2 years after my graduation. I studied business and marketing in Beijing. And I had an attempt at educational entrepreneurship under my belt. And I was working for Guoxin Tendering. I was international business development manager. Guoxin does lots of public and private projects. They do construction, anything from the Olympic Stadium, that's called the Bird's Nest in China, to the latest airport, Daxing in Beijing. So it's a really interesting company. And at that time, it was actually very interesting how I came to find out about OpenExO. I was already at my second attempt at an educational startup, so really, I am very happy I found my passion early on. But it was at that stage when I was looking for new innovative methodologies to help kids learn English through project-based learning. And when I found OpenExO, it was like it immediately resonated with me. Um, I started reading the book. I did the consultant certification. I started to get involved because I just saw so many opportunities between education, cuisine, and bringing EXO to China in general. So that's when I met you, Kev. Actually, you're one of the first community members that I met. And then I met Lars. Lars Lin, he's a core OpenExO member, amazing individual. Lars had done businesses in China. His wife happens to be Chinese as well. And within these conversations of figuring out how we could collaborate with China, we also got to share about our passion for education. Lars is the founder of Educate for Life. If you don't know about it and you are passionate about education, it's a community that you should be in. It's full of passionate individuals who just want to come together and contribute to disrupting, what we know as education. So do join that. It was actually from there the Planet Pilots came to be. That's my start of my current main focus. But it came, Educate for Life came to my life precisely at a moment where my educational startup in China was pivoting into an investment platform for EMBA students. This was a completely big pivot, very much pushed by my investor, who happened to be the general manager of Goshi. So again, there was just lots of open EXO that I knew sort of like I had to assimilate all of this, right? And so I joined Planet Pilot. It's been, I think, the best decision that I've made. I took you could call it a leap of faith by stepping down on my startup in China. But the crazy part is that OpenExO hasn't just given me that. It's really, opened so many doors as well. I've gotten to collaborate in really interesting projects. One of the very first one was the EXO challenge, not the very first one, but for Colombia, and what is now Purpose Alliance. But in that challenge, I was part of the organizing team, and I got to meet a really interesting community of Colombians that are part of the EXO community. In there, I worked with 14 members of Brutanio. I became an ambassador of Brutanio. Brutanio is this amazing ecosystem that's working to boost the innovation ecosystem in Latin America. It's grown from that. They're using a token as a means to exchange services. So really interesting community, again, just trying to redefine, what is possible in our current reality. But I met the Brutanio team. I was part also of organizing the company builder. You have Pedro coming up next on the EXO Lives. But that was another amazing initiative. It actually broke, I think, world records in terms of collaborators and startups coming out of that acceleration program.
Yeah.
In there, I also collaborate with Karina, who happened to share her amazing recommendation here, we could call it. But Karina was leading with me the educational vertical for Company Builder.
Yeah.
So again, all of these experiences were really rewarding to me in terms of me being able to collaborate with teams, all over Latin America that were really working together. Hey, how can we change our realities, right? How can we collaborate and use education as a means for change? So it always felt really nice to be able to share at least the knowledge that I've gathered from my entrepreneurial experience and my EXO consultancy experience as well. So yeah, as part of the company builder, I'm trying not to forget here big projects, because it's just every project that I think that comes out of the community really has as its core the value of transforming, the world. And so yeah, I'm just deeply grateful to be a part of many of them. Um, I yeah, I would
No,
say.
absolutely. And so I mean the one thing that's sometimes quite mind blowing, when you speak to friends who perhaps are, just working a normal 9 to 5, is the fact that, pretty much every day, you have the opportunity to speak to people on every continent, depending how many hours you want to work. So, what would you say are some of the like the golden nuggets that you've experienced from, your time so far, being within the OpenExO community?
That's a great question, Kev. I would like to thank OpenExO. Really, I think like the biggest golden nugget that I've gotten, it's how it's helped me change my view of the future. I love the example, typical EXO example, where if you take 30 linear steps, you get 30 meters, right? Far.
Yeah.
But if you take 30 exponential steps, you get 27 times around the world. Like, to me, that was just a really interesting concept to try to visualize. And it's not just that, but again, that there are so many different technologies, exponential technologies that are converging. And so to me, it really helped me shape how I view entrepreneurship and how I come about with my consultancy focus, right? And it's
Mm.
how can we, look at how this technology will disrupt your sector, right? And then work from there to come up with an MTP and the attributes to how to get there faster, cheaper, more efficiently, right? It's just that it was really inspiring for me, especially coming from Colombia, because it's usually very difficult, or it seems impossible to see a third world country rise because of the need of scarce resources, right? Because how long it takes to change these things. But then comes, Salim, I like his quote saying that if you're starting something, why don't you start an EXO, right? Why don't you think about how can you leverage the abundance, right, around you to help get there much faster? And education is a big part of that. But it's also about the community. I forgot to mention the majority of projects that I did mention that I was a part of were
Folks, it seems like Deanna has. Oh,
I'm back.
yeah, you're back. You're back.
I'm back. Yeah, I saw things sort of shut down for a second.
No worries.
uh, anyways, it's just amazing to see, how a community can come together and make use of, each other's uniqueness, right? And create something beautiful that has a big impact. So I think that's been like the biggest golden nugget for me.
Now you've mentioned a few times the word MTP, and of course, usually the people watching are people within our community who know what an MTP is, but that stands for massive transformative purpose. And so, for you personally, could you share your MTP, and how you have come about working on it? It's quite a toil. I know some people, it takes them a long time to stick to one, or they realize, wait a minute, I've actually been doing the wrong thing, and I had to make a change. But so would you like to share that with those who are watching?
Yeah, it's a journey. I think actually my specific case can serve as yeah, an example of how it's a continuous process, right? I started with my MTP as, I believe my first MTP was making personal and professional development accessible. And then it was actually Crystal, the co-founder of Planet Pilots, who was helping me think like, that sounds kind of right, but it's not really driving me to help you, right? Like, let's try to tweak it and make it more interesting. And so I started brainstorming around it, like what would that create, and what would that future look like if such a thing came to happen. And so I later on pivoted to spreading passion for life in everyone, because I think that that's what personal and professional development allows you to do, right? I have a feeling that the system, the social system that we live in, it's encouraging people to find things to do, right, to maintain yourself. And so we're like stuck in these cages of working for something that we don't find meaningful, right? And if we think through the history of humanity, it's always been about a contribution, right? Like I contribute this, you contribute that, and we have like some sort of shared value that we're getting, and it's starting to become about a reality where people don't know what they want to contribute, right? They don't think they can contribute something special, something unique. And so it again gets back to that doing, okay, then there's no jobs, the government needs to find me something to do, right? And it's not about that. It's like, how can we create a system where people can, be creative, find their unique contribution to the planet, right? And yeah, so I'm very passionate, as you can see, about this topic, but it is my MTP.
No, I mean it's fantastic, and as Salim often says, he believes that the future is actually about aligning MTPs, right? And I think before we can align those MTPs, we need to let people know that they're allowed to have MTPs, right? And that, I think, that does start with passion, right? To find your purpose, you need to know what you're passionate about. And it's really interesting because your MTP sort of dovetails with mine, which is unlocking positive human potential, right? So having traveled a lot, and I know you've traveled a lot too, you see so much potential in the world, and especially when you travel to developing countries, where people might feel that there's scarce resource, there's not enough. You see people who could have so much, who do have so much potential, yet they don't build that passion because they just have to live, right? So you maybe get a 9-to-5 job because you have a family to feed, and like you say, it's quite unfair, right? And so I think we align quite a lot there around the fact that if people understood their purposes, their passion, etc., we could have a much better world. I'm sure you'd agree.
Definitely, a much happier world for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, one thing you've mentioned a few times is Planet Pilots. So would you like to share a little bit more about Planet Pilots? And we are going to have a Future of Education live stream happening sometime probably early June, which we're going to be speaking to Planet Pilots. But could you share a little bit about Planet Pilots?
Yes, I'll be happy to. Planet Pilots is actually a really interesting initiative because it came out of EXO Sprint. It was hosted by Educate for Life. Again, it's a community that not only unites people passionate about education, but they provide them EXO resources to actually give them, at least increase the probabilities of success. So just to share a bit about the process and how EXO has actually helped us shape where we're going today. We started again with a sprint, and in the very first week, we were in the research phase, right? It's usually it's the first phase of the sprint, and during that research phase, we started again to try to visualize how all the different technologies, AI meeting robotics, children becoming one with technology, because that's really the relationship that's starting to develop between kids and technologies, right? With their friends, they're their pets, they're their helpers. So all of these things that are coming, VR, AR, right, 3D printing are really disrupting the reality of kids, and it's completely different than it was in the past, right? I feel like that there's something really dragging down education, is that we still perceive kids as we did in the past. And in the past, kids were only able to contribute through their physical, abilities. If you were in a farm, well, you could help, sometimes here, you help with your grandparent, your dad, but there wasn't really much that you could do to contribute to society. And so we came up, our very first thing was our MTP. We came up with a healthy planet managed by Empower Kids. And the reason was because we saw all of these tools and all of these developments, right? Helping kids at a very young age to discover who they are and how they want to contribute to society. And by that, creating a better future, right? We don't have to wait for kids to be a certain age or graduate from university for them to start shaping the world that we want to live in, right? The earlier we get kids in this process and the earlier we expose them to learning and finding their path, the faster we're gonna, evolve as a society. So we started with the MTP. Again, so it's visualizing this. I hope it's useful for new community members, or if you're planning on just starting now. But think about how these technologies are changing the world, because they are. In 5 years from now, we're all going to be connecting, computing power is decreasing, the world is changing. You need to assimilate this, whether you
Yeah.
want it or not. And COVID has been an accelerator. But so try to picture that future, right? And how your solution today can be useful at that time as well. Don't create a solution that's not pointing towards the direction that we're going as a society,
Mm.
right? And so I could share some examples. We had our MTP. We're very much leveraging different attributes. I'll start with community. One of our very first learnings was that lots of schools were doing project-based learning, and that's a huge improvement, right? We're strong believers that projects expose kids to interesting skills, to interesting disciplines, and it's really core for helping you understand, who you are. But the problem was that most of these projects were not to take merit out of them, but we're very much related to, starting a trash sort of project for the community or for the school, right? Or very, very much old school solutions, right? Like
Mm.
reinventing the wheel. It is very difficult for schools to be able to leverage, talent and bring about experts that can really provide, interesting feedback to the projects that kids are working on, right? How can we
Yeah.
get them started on projects in robotics, in AI, right? And
Yeah, absolutely. You mean rather than saying let's pick up trash as a project, why not say how can we use cameras and machine learning to determine how much trash is flowing down the river or whatever?
where it's
Something
coming
that
from,
yes,
exactly.
yes.
Exactly, and so we were always very much happy, if I could call it, to be part of the OpenExO community and to have lots of contributors that felt passionate about this very thing that I'm sharing, right? And
Mm.
and so we're right now trying to come up with an interesting flywheel, we could call it, where we also have another community. They're called Open Coffee High School students, and these students are amazing. They meet every now and then to do sort of like networking and asking questions sessions. So all of
Mm.
them are working on really interesting projects, and they meet every week to sort of like keep up. How can we help each other? It's a really interesting dynamic that they have going on, very similar to that of the EXO Sprint, where you meet every week to sort of get things running. But we've started to bring them into the picture as well, right? Like how can we add value to each other? I think that's really what's nice about businesses now. And it's not so much about competition, but how can we make the pie bigger, right? How can we collaborate, share resources, and create something that it's really valuable? So the Open Coffee high school students are now facilitating some of the sessions of the pilots in between the projects, right? And we really want to open doors to them, to the OpenExO community, right? Because these are high school students that are working on really interesting projects as well. So these are all ideas, but it's like, how can you think of, again, what resources are available, right? What is the abundance out there that you can help channel or funnel? So community is a big attribute for us. Everything we do it's I would call it open source. Even we're very much about collaboration and co-creation. One of our first missions was actually to co-create 1,000 ways to empower kids. So yeah, if this resonates with you, please do reach out. But another big attribute that I could mention perhaps is engagement. I am a big believer of the power of engagement and gamification. I think that there is lots of solutions out there that are very much function focused. So people need them. That doesn't mean that people want to use them, right?
Yeah.
And so engagement treats these really interesting. What it's like, it helps you craft your experience in a way that it does encourage and motivates the users to take the actions that you want them to take, right? Or that you've designed the solution to do. And so for us, if I were to back up a little bit, again, we started by realizing the amount of impact that real world solutions could bring to the spectrum of education. But it wasn't an end on its own, right? Our focus was really, how could we use these projects, right, as a vehicle for them to learn from their mistakes, right? From them to get motivation out of it, um, drive them to find out, hey, am I in the right path? Am I in the wrong path? So again, in the very beginning, we had projects, right? And it takes a lot of motivation to finish a project. It's a long time, right? And so we started thinking, okay, how can we use engagement? How can we use gamification to craft an experience where, there is reflection within the projects, right? Where you can track, we're very big believers in opening doors as well. So where you can track the skills that you've put to projects, right? And not just that, but also add another layer, right? Of how can we help them assess how they felt while doing those projects, right? So this can all be done with really quick, tracking mechanisms that you can check your mood once you finish. But the goal being that after you can look back and reflect upon, am I in my right path? Because the fact that you're doing something and that you're successful at it doesn't necessarily mean that it does you any good, right? If I look at this, I'm doing very well, but 70% of the time I'm feeling bad about it. I'm not feeling good of doing this. And something that I devote 20% of my time, it's like I'm 90% of the time happy doing it, right? Then it's like, how can we use these different game techniques or functionalities to help them sort of like get to these knowing themselves goal, which is what we wanted to focus on. So yeah, it's always about, again, seeing, what can you use, how can you leverage AI to facilitate this, right? What are the right user interfaces? It's all sort of like a discovery journey that we're going through, but it's really been, OpenExO methodology has really been a pillar for helping us craft or draft that path.
That's so amazing to hear, and really excited to see where things go into the future. Now, time has flown past, and we have reached the end of today's live stream. So, as a final word, what would you like to share, Diana, as we send you on your way to continue working today?
Thank you, Kev. Let me think about this. Yeah, if I could close it, I would like to close it on an optimistic note. The fact that all of these technologies are growing at a fast pace, it doesn't necessarily mean that the barrier of entry is getting higher, right? Like there is a big example, Unreal Engine, lots of technologies that are becoming more accessible, they're becoming cheaper. They're taking down all the learning curve that was needed for you to come in. And so now, even if you're not sure about what you want to do, right? What do you want to start? It is really the time. There is not that many experts. Things are changing dramatically every year. And if you find your passion, if you find something you would like to learn about and spend time researching, you're just in time to, get started and really think, how can I use this to, be of use and contribute, again, the big word being here, contribute value to society. So yeah, I would encourage you to, be optimistic about, how can you contribute value to society.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Sometimes my friends and family maybe get a bit sick of me being so optimistic. Yes, there's problems in the world, but we have so many solutions. We have so many amazing people like you, Diana, and others in the OpenExO community and outside of the community that are really doing amazing things. It's always fantastic to chat to people from the community, to hear what you're doing. So thank you for joining us. And we'll see you again soon within the community. And early June, I think you'll be back for us when we speak about Planet Pilots and talking about the future of education. So that'll be another live stream. I do love these live streams. So thank you so much, Diana. And yeah, we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Kev. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So that was Diana Bernal calling us from Argentina. As she said, when I met her, when she joined the community, it was actually always via WeChat while she was in Beijing. So that's another OpenExO Live next week. Do join us, and we'll see you then.